Okay, now we're going to build the bow, and that's right here. Okay, you can see there's nothing there, just a blank hole, and now we have to fill up this space. And we have a few options. One of them is to put just 2 big blocks of wood right here at the end of this hall, and sand the whole hall and the blocks all together and form the bow. And in real ships, this was all solid timber anyhow, a wall of timber. And if I was going to plank this hull, I would probably use blocks for the bow. But in this case, I want to leave the framing on this hull open, so what I'm going to have to do is put in the 3 frames, cant frames they're called, and the bow timbers. So, well, I got to think about that because depending on who built the ship, a lot of countries had their own style of building. Let's see, the English did it one way, French did it another way. The Irish had their own method. So because this was built on Lake Champlain in North America in around 1800, we're going to go with kind of the standard bow of the time and place. And they actually, here, let me show you some pictures. They look like this. Okay, this here is one style of a bow framing. Now, zooming in on this, you can see here's the last cant frame, and all the bow timbers start here, and they move up that last cant frame until you have solid wood right up here. Okay, now looking at that from the inside, we'll go over here. Okay, and you can see here's the stem, and each one of these bow timbers are running straight down, and they end at the last cant frame. Okay, now this is one style of framing that was done on a bow. See, here it is again. Once again, you can see these timbers, if you look straight on at the bow, would be straight up and down, and they do not end down here at the foot. They're ending as they move up at the last frame. Now that's one style of framing. The first style I showed you was the typical British style framing. Now in this framing style, notice all of these frames come down to the stem and come down to the deadwood. They don't have all of those solid timber stacked up at the bow. Now let me show you another photo of that. Okay, the first photos I showed you was a typical British style of framing. Now this style of framing was more common in North America, and as you can see, there's no solid timbers all falling onto the last cant frame. All of these frames are all folding or canting forward like this. Okay, here's an inside view of the same thing. See, once again, all of these frames are just moving forward like this, and there is no big final block of timber here. And this is the type of framing we're now going to use for the building of the caustic. Okay, before we actually start building our caustic bow, let's take one last look at the construction of a bow. Okay, on this side is actually the inside of a shipwreck. Now you'll notice we have a purple frame, and this red frame, and this blue frame. Those are the 3 cant frames. This right here is the knighthead, and then the purple and the yellow are our hawse timbers or our filler frames. Okay, now see this green knighthead? Let's look over here on this model. That's this frame. That's this right here. See, there's 2 of them. and they sandwich right down here. See, this is the stem, so they're on either side of the stem. Okay, see these last two frames? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's these. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now this is more stylized form of framing, because these last two timbers would actually be filled in solid. See, you can see right here. Let's zoom out. See, this would be just solid timbers between the knight head and the last can frame, and that's how we're going to build the caustic. So that's it. Let's get started. Oh yeah, this right here is an actual shipwreck from the Great Lakes, dated 1840, which was approximately 40 years after the building of the caustic. So this is probably a more accurate type of bow, which is actually this type of bow. So that's it. Let's get started. So okay, let's start, and I'll start by zooming in down on the work table here, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, let me show you what the final goal in these cant frames are. See, you can see here how they're beveled to form the shape of the bow. Okay, that's the outside. Now let's take a look at the inside. Okay, you can see how they're shaped on the inside, and we can see how they're canted forward, just like that. Okay, that way on the inside, and we can see that cant on the outside, and that's this line right here. They all touch each other down here, but as they move up, they spread out like this. Okay, now I made these out of basswood. So what I did was I took the ones right here that go into the kit, the ones that are made out of beech, and I traced these onto pieces of basswood. And I just wanted to do kind of a trial run to see how it's going to work out. Now, a lot of model builders go through a lot of trouble to draw these can frames out first with the bevels on them, and then they make them individually, and then they fit them into the model. Well, I've tried that, and I find it really difficult to draw them, because let's take a look at one of these. Okay, this is, let me see. Okay, this is the front face. Let's go against this. This is the back face, and then this is the inside bevel. This is the outside bevel, and that bevel changes. It's not much of a bevel down here at the keel, but as this thing moves up, the bevel gets steeper and steeper. See how steep it is here compared to down here, which is almost no bevel, to a very steep bevel. So not only do you have to draw the bevel from the face this way, but you have to draw it from here to here. You have to do that on the outside, you have to do that on the inside, and to add to it, then you have to draw the angle of the cant, which is this angle right here. See it? Okay, and then you also have to keep this square to the keel. So I think that's really hard to do by drawing these things out. So my method is to use a big blank like this. Okay, and then I take these big blanks, and like here, let me take these finished ones out of here. My method is to take just big square blanks like this. See, there's no bevels on these things at all. Okay, now I like to take them and fit them right into the bow like that. Okay, that's 1, 2, and where's number 3? Oh, here it is. Okay, and then take number 3 and set them in. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the entire hull in one piece, and then that's going to automatically put the bevels on. I find that a lot easier to do, and so far so good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead with the beach and fit those into the jig.